The crystalline ships of the Zephyrian collective moved through space like floating diamonds against the black void. High Counselor Vexithara stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the transparent hull. His blue skin shimmered under the ship's soft lights as he reviewed the latest reports from his scouts. 300 years had passed since the Zephyrians first left their home world. In that time, they had built an empire that stretched across 47 star systems. Every species they encountered had joined their collective willingly or by force. The process was always the same: send diplomats with a show of strength, offer protection and technology, and wait for the inevitable surrender. Now the scouts had found something new. A young species calling themselves humans had recently developed, faster than light travel. Their ships were crude and slow compared to Zephyrian technology. Their weapons were simple energy beams and primitive missiles. The humans appeared to be exactly like every other species the collective had absorbed over the centuries. Ambassador Crethan entered the bridge with his usual confident stride. His crystalline features caught the light as he bowed slightly to the High Counselor. The ambassador had conducted first contact with 17 different species during his career. Each time had ended with a new world joining the collective and bringing their resources under Zephyrian control. "The fleet is ready, High Counselor," Crethan reported. 12 ships should be more than enough to impress these humans. Our scientists estimate their entire military consists of fewer than 50 vessels. Vexithara nodded approvingly. "Remember the standard protocol. Demonstrate our superiority without appearing threatening. Offer them membership in the collective, with favorable terms. Most species accept within 3 days once they see what we can offer them." The Zephyrian diplomatic fleet consisted of sleek cruisers, each one capable of destroying multiple human ships with ease. Their hulls were made from living crystal that could repair damage automatically. Their weapons could punch through any armor the humans possessed. Their shields could deflect the most powerful attacks the primitive species could launch. As the fleet prepared to enter hyperspace, Crethan reviewed the intelligence files on humanity. The species originated from a world called Earth in the Sol system. They had high gravity compared to most worlds, which had made them physically strong, but had also limited their early space development. Their planet had extreme weather patterns and dangerous predators, creating a species that was naturally aggressive and adaptable. The humans had only achieved interstellar flight 20 years ago. Their first colonies were small mining outposts and research stations scattered across nearby systems. They showed no signs of advanced military technology or sophisticated space-based manufacturing. Everything about them suggested another typical pre-industrial species that would benefit greatly from collective membership. Captain Jake Morrison was conducting a routine patrol near Jupiter when his sensors detected the incoming alien ships. The captain of the Earth Defense Force vessel UES Ranger had been in space for 15 years, but this was his first contact with non-human intelligence. His hands remained steady as he activated the long-range communication systems. "The alien." Message came through clearly in perfect English. Ambassador Crethan's voice was smooth and diplomatic as he explained the situation. The Zephyrian collective had noticed humanity's emergence into interstellar space and wanted to welcome them to the galactic community. They offered protection, advanced technology, and profitable trade relationships in exchange for joining their organization. Morrison listened carefully to every word while his crew recorded the transmission. The ambassador mentioned loyalty oaths and resource tribute as standard parts of collective membership. The Zephyrians would provide defense against hostile species and share their advanced knowledge in exchange for human cooperation and contributions to the common good. On Earth, President Claire Williams convened an emergency meeting as soon as Morrison's report reached the capital. The Global Defense Council gathered in the secure Situation Room beneath the Pentagon. Admiral Pete Collins, head of the Earth Defense Force, spread star charts across the main table while intelligence analysts prepared their briefings. Dr. Lisa Harper, Earth's leading expert on theoretical xenobiology, reviewed the alien communications with growing excitement. This was the moment humanity had prepared for since achieving interstellar flight. First contact with an advanced alien civilization could accelerate human development by centuries if handled correctly. Their technology appears to be significantly advanced, Dr. Harper reported to the assembled leaders. The crystalline hull. Construction suggests material science beyond our current capabilities. Their faster-than-light systems are clearly more efficient than our own. Admiral Collins studied the tactical reports from Captain Morrison's encounter. 12 ships maintaining, formation just outside the asteroid belt. No aggressive movements, but they're positioned to control access to the inner system if necessary. Classic diplomatic pressure combined with implied military threat. President Williams listened to the analysis before speaking. What are our options? Dr. Harper believes joining their collective could benefit humanity greatly. Admiral Collins is concerned about losing our independence. We need to consider both possibilities carefully. The debate continued for hours as different experts presented their views. The economic advisors saw tremendous opportunities in alien trade and technology transfer. The military leaders worried about becoming a vassal state to a superior power. The scientists were fascinated by the chance to learn from an advanced civilization. Secretary of State Karen Webb raised the most important question. What happens if we refuse their offer? Ambassador Creathen spoke diplomatically, but there was an underlying assumption that we would accept. How do other species typically respond to collective membership invitations? Intelligence Director Sam Turner provided the sobering analysis. Based on the ambassador's comments, it appears that collective membership is presented as the only reasonable option. Species that join receive benefits. The fate of those who refuse was not mentioned, but the implication was clear. As the meeting progressed, President Williams realized that humanity faced its first major test as an interstellar species. The decision would affect not only Earth, but all human colonies and future expansion plans. Accepting collective membership might provide security and advancement, but at the cost of independence. Refusing could lead to conflict with a technologically superior opponent. Admiral Collins requested permission to put the Earth Defense Force on high alert. President Williams approved the measure while emphasizing that any military preparations should remain discreet. The last thing humanity needed was to appear threatening to their alien visitors while still evaluating their options. Dr. Harper suggested requesting additional time to study the collective's offer thoroughly. Such a momentous decision deserved careful consideration by all Earth governments and colonial administrations. Ambassador Creathen had indicated that most species responded quickly, but humanity needed to examine every aspect of the proposed relationship. The meeting ended with President Williams authorizing Secretary Webb to arrange formal negotiations with the Zephyrian ambassador. Humanity would request time to consider the offer while gathering more information about collective membership requirements and benefits. The response would be diplomatic but would avoid any commitments until Earth's leaders fully understood the implications. Ambassador Creathen waited patiently in space while monitoring human communications. The species showed the expected mixture of fear and curiosity that he had observed in other first contacts. Their requests for additional time and formal negotiations followed predictable patterns. Within a few days, he expected to welcome another grateful species into the collective's embrace. Captain Morrison established communication protocols with Ambassador Creathen 3 days after the initial contact. The Zephyrian diplomat agreed to meet in neutral space between Earth and Mars, confident that the negotiations would follow the familiar pattern he had experienced with other species. His crystalline features showed satisfaction as he prepared his ceremonial robes for what he expected to be a brief formality. The ambassador selected his finest diplomatic attire, woven from threads that changed color based on his emotional state. The material would display calm blues and greens during negotiations, projecting an image of peaceful authority. His staff prepared gifts of Zephyrian technology samples, including self-repairing crystals and energy storage devices that would demonstrate the benefits of collective membership. Admiral Collins dispatched 3 Earth Defense Force cruisers to escort the human diplomatic mission. The UES Liberty, UES Guardian, and UES Defender represented humanity's most advanced vessels, though they appeared primitive compared to Zephyrian technology. Each ship carried representatives from major Earth nations, military advisors, and diplomatic staff trained in first contact protocols. Colonel Ben Hayes commanded the escort mission from the bridge of the UES Liberty. His 20-year military career had prepared him for many situations, but negotiating with alien diplomats was entirely new territory. The colonel reviewed intelligence reports while his crew made final preparations for the historic meeting. Dr. Harper served as chief xenobiologist and cultural liaison for the human delegation. She had spent years studying theoretical alien psychology and communication patterns, but this would be her first opportunity to apply that knowledge with actual extraterrestrial beings. Her excitement was tempered by awareness of how much depended on successful negotiations. Secretary of State Webb led the civilian diplomatic team with careful preparation. Her instructions from President Williams were clear. Gather as much information as possible about the collective while avoiding any binding commitments. Humanity needed to understand exactly what membership would involve before making such a momentous decision. The meeting took place in the Liberty's main conference room, with both sides maintaining respectful distances. Ambassador Creathen materialized. In his environmental suit, his crystalline features impressive even through the transparent barrier. The humans had prepared their own environmental systems to accommodate Zephyrian atmospheric requirements. The initial exchanges followed diplomatic protocols as both sides established communication procedures and cultural frameworks. Dr. Harper presented humanity's preliminary analysis of Zephyrian civilization, while Ambassador Creathen outlined the basic structure and benefits of collective membership. The conversation remained polite and professional throughout the opening sessions. Secretary Webb presented Earth's position with carefully chosen diplomatic language. Humanity appreciated the collective's generous offer and recognized the tremendous opportunities it represented. However, such a significant decision required thorough review by Earth's diverse governments and colonial administrations. The integration of an entire species into an existing interstellar organization involved complex considerations. The humans emphasized their desire for peaceful cooperation while expressing concerns about certain aspects of the proposed relationship. The loyalty oaths and resource tribute mentioned in the initial contact required examination by legal experts and economic advisors. Earth's leaders needed to understand precisely what obligations collective membership would create. Ambassador Creathen felt the first stirrings of concern as the negotiations progressed. Most species he had encountered were overwhelmed by Zephyrian technology and eager to accept protection from more advanced civilizations. These humans seemed almost casual about the power disparity between their civilizations, treating the negotiations as a business discussion rather than a submission ceremony. When Colonel Hayes mentioned Earth's defensive preparations and strategic considerations, the ambassador wondered if he had misjudged this species' technological capabilities. The human military officer spoke with confidence that suggested hidden resources or capabilities not apparent in their primitive vessels. Dr. Harper provided detailed questions about collective governance structures and member species rights that surprised the Zephyrian delegation. Most species focused on the immediate benefits of advanced technology and military protection. The humans seemed more interested in long-term political arrangements and autonomy preservation. The discussions revealed that humanity had been observing galactic communications for several years before achieving interstellar flight. Earth scientists had developed theoretical models of interstellar civilization structures and had identified potential advantages and disadvantages of different organizational approaches. They approached collective membership as informed participants rather than grateful supplicants. Secretary Webb outlined humanity's preliminary concerns about the proposed relationship structure. Earth's governments valued their independence and were reluctant to accept external authority over internal affairs. The loyalty oath requirement raised questions about sovereignty and self-determination that needed careful consideration. The resource tribute aspect also required detailed examination. Earth's economy was still developing its interstellar components, and the planet's leaders needed to understand exactly what contributions would be expected. The humans wanted to ensure that collective membership would enhance rather than diminish their species' long-term prospects. Ambassador Creathen found himself in an unusual negotiating position. The standard collective presentation assumed that primitive species would be grateful for inclusion in an advanced civilization. These humans were evaluating the offer like a business partnership, examining benefits and costs with analytical detachment. The Zephyrian delegation had prepared for grateful acceptance or fearful rejection, not careful economic analysis. The humans asked pointed questions about other member species' experiences, requested examples of collective decision-making processes, and inquired about mechanisms for resolving disputes between members and leadership. As the formal sessions progressed, Colonel Hayes mentioned Earth's military preparations in casual terms that made the Zephyrian tactical officers increasingly uncomfortable. The human military representative spoke of fleet positioning and strategic assets, as if humanity possessed significant military capabilities beyond their apparent primitive vessels. Dr. Harper discussed human technological development with enthusiasm that bordered on pride. She mentioned advances in materials science, energy systems, and manufacturing processes that seemed inconsistent with the crude ships the Zephyrians had observed. The human scientist spoke of breakthrough developments and classified projects with casual confidence. The meeting concluded with humanity requesting 30 days to provide a formal response to the collective's membership offer. Secretary Webb explained that such a decision required consultation with all Earth governments, colonial administrations, and military commands scattered across human space. The democratic nature of human government made rapid decisions impossible. Ambassador Creathen agreed to the delay, though privately he considered it unusual. His experience with other species suggested that technological demonstrations and military presence typically produced faster responses. The humans seemed remarkably calm for a species facing potential conquest by a superior civilization. As the diplomatic delegations prepared to return to their respective ships, Colonel Hayes made a comment that would haunt the ambassador's thoughts during the waiting period. The human military officer mentioned that Earth's primary assets were still being positioned for the final negotiations, suggesting that humanity possessed resources not yet revealed. The Zephyrian fleet maintained its position in the outer Sol system while Ambassador Creathen reported to High Counselor Vexthera. His initial confidence was beginning to fade as he reviewed the humans' questions and comments. Something about their behavior suggested hidden capabilities that made no sense given their apparent technological limitations. Dr. Harper's casual references to classified military projects and breakthrough developments were particularly troubling. Most primitive species had no secrets worth protecting from advanced civilizations. The humans acted as if they possessed strategic advantages that had not yet been revealed to their alien visitors. As the 30-day waiting period began, Ambassador Creathen ordered his science officers to conduct more detailed scans of the Sol system. The initial surveys had focused on obvious military installations and major population centers. Perhaps more thorough analysis would reveal what gave these humans their unusual confidence in negotiations with a clearly superior civilization. 27 days into the diplomatic waiting period, the Zephyrian long-range sensors detected an anomaly in the outer Sol system. Science officer Zek Lin monitored the readings from his crystalline console, initially dismissing the energy signature as a natural phenomenon. The disturbance appeared to be moving inward from beyond Pluto's orbit at tremendous speed, far exceeding anything the primitive human vessels should have been capable of achieving. Ambassador Creathen was reviewing diplomatic protocols when Zek Lin's urgent report reached the bridge. The science officer's crystalline features showed confusion as he explained the readings to his superior. The energy signature was massive, larger than anything in the Zephyrian fleet, and it was accelerating toward the inner system with purpose and precision that ruled out natural causes. The ambassador ordered his entire sensor array focused on the approaching disturbance. What the Zephyrian instruments revealed defied every assumption they had made about human technological capabilities. The object was clearly artificial, constructed rather than natural, and it was approaching at speeds that suggested propulsion, systems far more advanced than anything the humans had previously displayed. As the massive shape resolved on their sensors, the Zephyrian bridge fell silent. Ambassador Creathen felt his crystalline skin shift to pale blue, the color of shock and disbelief. The approaching vessel was enormous, dwarfing every ship in his diplomatic fleet combined. 12 kilometers long and 3 kilometers wide, it moved through space with the grace and power of something that had been designed to dominate any battlefield. The UES Goliath emerged from hyperspace like a mountain given flight. Its hull was a masterpiece of human engineering, covered with weapon emplacements that the Zephyrian tactical scanners identified as highly advanced particle beam arrays, missile tubes, and defensive systems that appeared to be generations beyond what they had attributed to human technology. The ship's very presence changed the balance of power in the system. Captain Ryan Mitchell commanded the Goliath from its massive bridge, a space larger than most starships. The command center buzzed with quiet efficiency as his crew of 12,000 personnel went about their duties with practiced precision. Lieutenant Commander Amy Price, his tactical officer, reported ready status from all weapon systems while monitoring the Zephyrian fleet's reactions to their arrival. The Titan-class dreadnought had been humanity's most carefully guarded secret. Built in hidden shipyards beyond the orbit of Neptune, the Goliath represented the culmination of 20 years of intensive military development. Human engineers had learned from studying captured alien technology and had developed revolutionary manufacturing techniques that produced vessels of unprecedented size and capability. Admiral Collins transmitted new instructions to Ambassador Cretan from Earth Command. The message was polite but firm, delivered with the confidence that came from having the largest warship in the system backing up the diplomatic negotiations. Humanity had reached its decision regarding collective membership, and they were prepared to discuss the matter with their alien visitors. Captain Morrison's escort ships moved into formation alongside the approaching Titan, their smaller hulls, seeming almost insignificant beside the massive dreadnought. The UES Liberty, Guardian, and Defender took positions that clearly indicated they were part of a coordinated military response rather than independent patrol vessels. Ambassador Cretan felt a chill that had nothing to do with his ship's environmental systems. His tactical officers reported that the human dreadnought mounted firepower equivalent to an entire Zephyrian battle fleet. Worse, detailed scans revealed sophisticated manufacturing techniques and materials science that exceeded collective standards in several critical areas. The crystalline diplomat realized that the humans had been building in secret while maintaining the appearance of a primitive spacefaring species. Every assumption the Zephyrians had made about human capabilities was wrong. They weren't facing a grateful species seeking protection from advanced aliens. They had encountered a military power that had deliberately allowed itself to be underestimated. Zeklin provided increasingly disturbing analysis as his sensors probed the human dreadnought. The ship's hull was constructed from materials that were denser and stronger than Zephyrian crystal composites. Its weapon systems showed design principles that suggested independent development rather than reverse engineering of alien technology. The humans had achieved their advances through their own research and innovation. The Goliath's manufacturing techniques were particularly impressive. Human engineers had developed automated construction systems that could build enormous vessels in space without requiring traditional planetary industrial facilities. The implications were staggering. If humans could build one ship of this size, they could build many more. Captain Mitchell opened communications with both the human diplomatic ships and the Zephyrian fleet. His voice carried calm authority as he identified himself and explained his mission. The Goliath was present to provide security for the diplomatic proceedings and to ensure that humanity's negotiators could speak freely without concern for external pressure. The human captain's tone was respectful but contained an underlying message that Ambassador Cretan understood immediately. The balance of power in the Sol system had shifted dramatically with the arrival of the Titan-class vessel. Any thoughts of forcing human compliance through military intimidation had become impossible with a single ship's appearance. Admiral Collins appeared on the main communication channel from Earth Command, his image broadcast to both human and Zephyrian vessels. The Earth Defense Force commander spoke with quiet confidence as he outlined humanity's position. They had carefully considered the collective's generous offer during the 30-day period and were prepared to present their response. Humanity was interested in establishing peaceful relations with the Zephyrian collective, the Admiral explained. They recognized the benefits of interstellar cooperation and were eager to engage in cultural and scientific exchanges with their alien neighbors. However, they must respectfully decline any arrangement involving tribute payments or subordination to external authority. The humans were prepared to discuss mutual defense agreements between equals, technology-sharing arrangements that benefited both civilizations, and trade relationships that were fair to all participants. Earth's leaders believed that cooperation between independent species would be more beneficial than the traditional hierarchy that characterized collective expansion. Ambassador Cretan found himself in a situation he had never encountered during his diplomatic career. The Zephyrian collective had never negotiated with a species possessing superior military technology. His crystalline features betrayed his confusion as he consulted privately with his staff about appropriate responses to humanity's unexpected position. High Counselor Vexathara, monitoring the negotiations from the collective capital, transmitted urgent instructions to avoid military confrontation while reassessing human capabilities. The appearance of the massive human dreadnought had changed every calculation about potential conflict outcomes. The Zephyrians needed to understand how they had so completely misjudged this species' technological development. Dr. Harper provided technical specifications that stunned the Zephyrian science officers. Humanity had developed their Titan class, vessels using revolutionary manufacturing techniques derived from their experience with extreme environments. Earth's high gravity, violent weather, and diverse biosphere had produced a species accustomed to building robust, adaptable technology that could survive in hostile conditions. The human approach to engineering emphasized redundancy, durability, and massive scale rather than the elegant efficiency preferred by most alien civilizations. Their ships were built to absorb tremendous damage while continuing to function, reflecting their species' natural tendency toward over-engineering and preparation for worst-case scenarios. Secretary Webb outlined humanity's counterproposal with diplomatic precision. Earth sought establishment of embassy exchanges that would allow both species to learn about each other's cultures and societies. Joint scientific research programs could benefit both civilizations by combining different approaches to technological development. Mutual defense agreements would provide security without requiring either species to surrender sovereignty. The humans offered to share certain technologies in exchange for Zephyrian knowledge in other fields, creating partnerships rather than subordination. Earth's manufacturing techniques could benefit collective worlds, while Zephyrian advances in energy systems and materials science would accelerate human development. Both species would gain more from cooperation than from conquest or submission. Colonel Hayes added military details that made the Zephyrian tactical officers increasingly nervous. The UES Goliath represented only the first of several Titan-class vessels, with more under construction in hidden shipyards throughout the outer system. Earth's defensive strategy had been designed specifically to counter technologically superior opponents through overwhelming firepower and tactical innovation. As the negotiations continued, Ambassador Creathan realized that humanity had used the diplomatic delay not for internal discussions but for fleet. The UES Goliath took position at the edge of the meeting zone, its massive bulk casting shadows across the smaller vessels of both fleets. Captain Mitchell's ship represented more than just military hardware. It was a statement about humanity's place in the galaxy and their refusal to accept subordination to any alien power. The Dreadnought's presence transformed the diplomatic proceedings from a submission ceremony into genuine negotiations between equals. Ambassador Creathan stared at the human vessel through his ship's transparent hull, his crystalline features shifting through colors that reflected his emotional turmoil. 3 centuries of collective expansion had followed the same pattern, with primitive species grateful for inclusion in an advanced civilization. The massive human warship destroyed every assumption his people had made about technological development and military capability. Captain Mitchell opened communications with both fleets, his calm voice carrying unmistakable authority as it echoed across multiple ships. The human commander identified himself and explained his mission with professional courtesy, but the underlying message was clear to every being listening. Humanity possessed the military strength to defend their interests and would not be intimidated by alien diplomatic pressure. Ambassador Creathan, this is Captain Mitchell of the Earth Defense Force. I'm here to provide security for our diplomatic proceedings and to ensure our negotiators can speak freely without external pressure or implied threats. The captain's words were carefully chosen to avoid direct confrontation while making humanity's position absolutely clear. The Goliath was not an aggressive gesture, but a defensive measure, protecting Earth's representatives while they conducted negotiations with their alien visitors. The distinction was important for maintaining diplomatic protocols while demonstrating military capability. Admiral Collins appeared on the main communication channel from Earth Command, his weathered features showing the confidence that came from commanding significant military resources. The Earth Defense Force commander had spent years preparing for this moment, developing strategies and technologies designed to preserve human independence in a hostile galaxy filled with more advanced civilizations. Ambassador, humanity has carefully considered the collective's generous offer during our deliberation period. We appreciate your patience and are prepared to discuss establishing formal relations between our civilizations. However, we must respectfully decline any arrangement involving tribute or subordination to external authority. The Admiral's statement marked the official end of traditional collective expansion in the Sol system. For the first time in 3 centuries, the Zephyrians faced a species that possessed both the military capability and political will to resist absorption into their empire. The implications extended far beyond a single diplomatic encounter. Dr. Harper provided technical specifications that made the Zephyrian science officers increasingly uncomfortable. Humanity had developed revolutionary manufacturing techniques that allowed them to construct enormous vessels in space without requiring traditional planetary industrial infrastructure. Their approach to engineering emphasized durability and overwhelming firepower rather than elegant efficiency. The human scientist explained how Earth's extreme environment had influenced their technological development. High gravity had made them naturally strong, while violent weather and dangerous predators had created a species accustomed to building robust systems designed to survive hostile conditions. Their ships reflected these characteristics through massive construction and redundant systems. Earth's manufacturing capabilities were particularly impressive to the Zephyrian analysts. Human shipyards could construct Titan-class vessels using automated systems and raw materials extracted from asteroids and outer planets. The process required no vulnerable planetary facilities and could be scaled up rapidly if military circumstances required expanded fleet construction. Secretary Webb outlined humanity's counterproposal with diplomatic precision, offering alternatives to the traditional collective membership model. Earth sought establishment of embassy exchanges that would allow both species to study each other's cultures and governmental systems. Such arrangements would build understanding while preserving each civilization's independence. Joint scientific research programs represented another area where cooperation could benefit both species without requiring political subordination. Human engineering approaches combined with Zephyrian energy systems could produce advances that neither civilization could achieve independently. Technology sharing agreements would accelerate development for all participants. The humans proposed mutual defense arrangements that would provide security benefits without creating hierarchical relationships. Both species would gain military advantages through cooperation, while maintaining sovereign control over their respective territories. Such agreements had precedent in human history and had proven effective for maintaining peace between independent nations. Colonel Hayes presented military assessments that fundamentally altered Zephyrian strategic calculations. The UES Goliath was not humanity's only Titan-class vessel. It was merely the first of several such ships under construction in hidden facilities throughout the outer Sol system. Earth's defensive planning had anticipated contact with superior alien civilizations and had prepared accordingly. Human military doctrine emphasized overwhelming firepower and tactical flexibility rather than technological elegance. Their ships were designed to absorb tremendous damage while maintaining combat effectiveness, reflecting their species' natural inclination toward over-engineering and preparation for worst-case scenarios. The approach had produced vessels that could match or exceed alien capabilities despite apparent technological disadvantages. The Colonel's briefing revealed that humanity had been observing galactic communications for years before achieving interstellar flight. Earth's military planners had studied collective expansion patterns and had developed specific countermeasures designed to defeat traditional conquest strategies. Their preparations had been comprehensive and carefully concealed. Ambassador Crethan realized that every aspect of First Contact had been planned by the humans to their advantage. The initial appearance of primitive technology had been deliberately maintained to encourage Zephyrian overconfidence. The diplomatic delay had allowed time for strategic positioning of military assets. Even the meeting location had been chosen to favor human tactical considerations. High Counselor Vexathara transmitted urgent instructions from the collective capital, emphasizing the need to avoid military confrontation while reassessing the entire situation. The appearance of the human dreadnought had destroyed 3 centuries of successful expansion policies and required fundamental changes to collective diplomatic approaches. The Zephyrian leader faced a strategic dilemma that had no precedent in collective history. Traditional expansion relied on technological superiority to intimidate primitive species into submission. When faced with equals or superiors, the collective had no established policies or procedures for conducting negotiations between independent powers. Dr. Harper's cultural analysis provided additional complications for Zephyrian planning. Human political systems were based on concepts of individual rights and governmental consent that made absorption into hierarchical alien empires extremely difficult. Earth's population would resist external control even if their leaders agreed to such arrangements. The human species had evolved in conditions that rewarded independence, innovation, and resistance to authority. Their diverse governmental systems reflected these characteristics through democratic institutions and individual freedom concepts that were incompatible with collective membership requirements. Any attempt to impose external control would face sustained resistance. Secretary Webb presented the broader implications of humanity's position during the final negotiating sessions. Earth was not simply rejecting collective membership, they were proposing an entirely different model for interstellar relations. Instead of hierarchical empires absorbing primitive species, they envisioned voluntary associations of independent civilizations. The human proposal offered significant advantages to existing collective members who might prefer independence to subordination. Earth's technological capabilities and manufacturing capacity could provide military support for species seeking to establish autonomous governments. The precedent could destabilize the entire collective structure if widely adopted. Captain Mitchell revealed additional strategic considerations that made military confrontation increasingly unattractive to the Zephyrians. Human defensive preparations extended throughout the Sol system, with hidden installations and mobile forces positioned to respond to any aggressive actions. The humans had prepared for total war if peaceful negotiations failed. The Titan-class dreadnought represented visible proof of human capabilities, but Captain Mitchell's briefing suggested far more extensive military resources that remained concealed. Earth's strategy assumed that any interstellar conflict would require sustained industrial capacity and multiple fleet actions rather than single decisive battles. As the negotiations progressed, Ambassador Creathan understood that humanity had fundamentally changed the balance of power in this region of space. High Counselor Vexathara arrived in the Sol system aboard the collective flagship Eternal Harmony, bringing the full authority of Zephyrian leadership to resolve the unprecedented diplomatic crisis. The ancient ruler had governed the collective for over 2 centuries, but the humans represented the first genuine challenge to traditional expansion policies in his long reign. His crystalline features showed the strain of adapting to entirely new strategic realities. The collective leader brought a full diplomatic retinue and authorizations to negotiate agreements that had no precedent in Zephyrian history. For 300 years, the collective had absorbed primitive species through combinations of technological demonstration and military intimidation. The humans required an entirely different approach based on mutual respect and genuine compromise. The formal negotiations took place aboard the UES Goliath, with Captain Mitchell serving as host for the historic discussions. The massive dreadnoughts, conference facilities impressed even veteran Zephyrian diplomats accustomed to grand architecture and advanced technology. The human ships' meeting spaces were designed for function rather than beauty, reflecting their species' practical approach to engineering and design. Dr. Harper led technical exchanges that revealed the true scope of human industrial capabilities. Earth's manufacturing systems could produce Titan-class vessels faster than the collective had initially believed possible, turning the Sol system into a major military-industrial power that could challenge established galactic balance. The implications extended far beyond simple defensive preparations. Human engineering approaches emphasized modularity and rapid production rather than the elegant efficiency preferred by most alien civilizations. Their factories could adapt quickly to changing requirements and could scale up production dramatically if circumstances demanded expanded military capabilities. The flexibility gave humanity strategic advantages that traditional powers lacked. Secretary Webb handled political frameworks with diplomatic skill that acknowledged Zephyrian concerns while preserving human independence. Earth's proposal fundamentally restructured interspecies relations in the sector, replacing hierarchical absorption with voluntary association between independent powers. The concept challenged basic assumptions about galactic civilization organization. Humanity sought establishment of a confederation of independent systems with mutual defense obligations, but without surrendering sovereignty to external authority. Each member species would maintain control over internal affairs while contributing to collective security and participating in joint research and development programs. The arrangement offered benefits of cooperation without the costs of subordination. High Counselor Vexathara recognized the strategic implications of the human proposal immediately. The collective faced growing pressure from the aggressive hegemony empire in the galactic core, whose expansion had been contained only through superior Zephyrian technology and strategic positioning. Adding human military capabilities to defensive arrangements would significantly strengthen their position against external threats. The hegemony empire represented everything that made interstellar politics dangerous for smaller civilizations. Their expansion philosophy emphasized conquest and absorption of useful species while eliminating those deemed unnecessary. The Empire's military doctrine relied on overwhelming force and rapid expansion to prevent potential enemies from organizing effective resistance. Admiral Collins presented humanity's broader strategic vision during key negotiating sessions. Earth had observed galactic politics during their technological development and had identified recurring patterns of expansion, conquest, and eventual stagnation that plagued most interstellar civilizations. They proposed alternatives based on voluntary cooperation and mutual benefit rather than domination and subordination. Human analysis suggested that hierarchical empires inevitably faced internal rebellions and external challenges that weakened them over time. Species forced into subordination eventually developed resentments that created security problems for their masters. Voluntary associations could avoid these difficulties while maintaining the benefits of interstellar cooperation. The breakthrough in negotiations came when Captain Mitchell revealed the true scope of human military preparations. The Sol system contained not just defensive installations, but also infrastructure for massive fleet construction that could produce hundreds of Titan-class vessels if circumstances required such production. Humanity could become a dominant military power virtually overnight. Human shipyards were distributed throughout the outer system in locations that were difficult to detect and impossible to attack without sustained military campaigns. The manufacturing facilities could operate independently and could relocate if threatened. Earth's defensive strategy assumed prolonged conflict and had prepared accordingly with redundant production capabilities. The industrial revelations forced Zephyrian strategic planners